starting with first base and your favorite DFS pitcher, Garion. Go ahead.
Will do. Frankie Montas. I think Montas is in a really nice spot tonight. He's $9,400. On a slate that's as stacked as this particular slate is when it comes to pitching, I just think he might kind of slip through the cracks a little bit. I think there's also kind of a fear of using any Oakland Athletic in a game against the Seattle Mariners. They've just dominated the Athletics so far this season. But Montas, his past 11 starts, 2.09 ERA, a 2.87 FIP, and he's striking out 29% of the opponents he has faced. And I don't know. I know Seattle's magic. I know nothing I say about their poor offensive statistics is going to end up mattering, but against right-handed pitching so far this season, they have just a 686 OPS. That is tied with Baltimore and Kansas City. That is sort of the class of team they actually should be hanging out with. But of course, they're a half game back in the second wild card in the American League. But all the stats point me towards Montas tonight, who I think is underpriced for how he's been pitching as of late.
Matty, who's your dude?
So Garion's right. There are a lot of really good pitching options on this slate. I think the most obvious one is Taijuan Walker, who's only 6,600. And I know that he's struggled a lot lately. But he's at home against the Marlins, and Walker, I think, in the first half of the season was like a 9K pitcher in an average spot. Second half of the season, he's had the results of a min-price guy, but he's probably more like a 7 or 8K pitcher who's in a really good matchup and is actually cheaper than that. So I think Walker's the best value play on the slate. The problem is his ownership is going to be through the roof. I think outside of Max Scherzer, he's the guy everyone goes to, which means that I think Logan Gilbert, who I actually didn't like 5 days ago because he was the chalk, I think he goes overlooked tonight. So Garion liked Frankie Montas. I actually like both pitchers in that game. I think Gilbert could get an A's lineup that is missing some key pieces. They have some injuries. They're not really playing for anything right now. So I think Gilbert, a guy who has a lot of strikeout upside, could go overlooked just because Taijuan Walker is there and cheaper than him in a better spot against the Marlins.
All right, second base is a DFS hitter that you're liking, Matt. Where are you going?
So I like this Dodgers-Padres game a lot. Part of it is because it is pretty expensive, and this is kind of a theme for me. Like I almost feel like every single time I'm on here talking about favorite hitters, it's from the Dodgers or the game the Dodgers are playing in, but there's a reason for it. These are some of the best hitters in baseball. If it wasn't for the second half of Bryce Harper and Juan Soto, like we'd be looking at Trey Turner and Max Muncy as MVP candidates. And Mookie Betts, obviously, like there's so many good hitters in this game, but because Scherzer is likely the top owned pitcher, or at least the most popular guy from the expensive range, I think that means that no one is playing Fernando Tatis Jr., who has been struggling lately, and you get a ton of leverage by playing some Padres bats. So I like Tatis and Machado, but Tatis in particular, and the big thing is that he's back at shortstop. So he has that positional value again, where he was in the outfield for a while, and there's just a large opportunity cost at outfield because most of the best hitters you can choose are outfielders. For tonight at shortstop, a better play for DFS, and I think still no one gets there because most people will be looking to Scherzer.
All right, Garion, which big bat are you going with?
Not actually going to go with a big bat. I'm going to go with a value bat as my favorite positional player on this evening's slate. I think Brandon Nimmo is in an amazing spot. Nimmo's actually someone who has been undervalued all season long because when he's healthy, he's been fantastic. He just hasn't been healthy all that much. But he's going to be hitting leadoff tonight at $3,300 against Elieser Hernandez. Hernandez has been atrocious since coming off the IL. His past 6 starts, specifically against left-handed batters, he's giving up an .845 slugging percentage and a .504 WOBA within the split. He just cannot get out left-handed bats, and unfortunately for him, there's a lot of left-handed bats in this Mets lineup, so I think it's going to be a pretty rough night for Hernandez, and I think that starts with Brandon Nimmo, who actually has a 155 WRC plus hitting at Citi Field in 2021. So again, when he's actually on the field, he's been fantastic, so take advantage of his price point.
Let's go to the hot corner. Let's go to third base. Let's go to the DK Sportsbook. Garion, what is your favorite run line or money line bet?
So I'm going to cheat here a little bit. I like Oakland on the money line. I like them on the money line. They're minus 120. As I mentioned, they've lost 11 consecutive games to the Mariners. So, you know, that might be a little scary for some people to follow me on this Oakland bet. However, if you do lean towards the Athletics tonight, don't bet them on the money line at minus 120. Bet them first 5 also at -120, because what you have to do here is take the Oakland bullpen out of the equation. Oakland's bullpen in the month of September has a 6.32 ERA. Only the Baltimore Orioles have a worse bullpen than Oakland in the month. That is not the kind of company you want to be keeping if you're hoping to grab a wild card spot. But we saw it last night. Oakland took an early lead, and their bullpen blew it. That's been a very recurring formula for the Athletics throughout the past 4 or 5 weeks. So just take them on the first 5. Frankie Montas has been incredible so far this season. He's very impressive the first time through the order. So I think Oakland gets an early lead in this game. Whether or not they can hold on to that is a different story, but you don't have to worry about that if you just take first 5.
Matt, 13 games on this slate. Which one has your favorite run line or money line bet?
Yeah, it's a lot of games, but honestly, I don't like that much. And one of the problems is that we don't know the starting lineups for a lot of these teams. This is the last week of the season now, and there are a lot of teams out of contention. And based on who's in the lineup, things could change a lot. So like if Juan Soto gets the day off for the Nationals, for example, the Rockies would be by far my favorite bet. All of that being said, I do think the Padres have a better chance to keep this game close than the odds really indicate. Obviously, we need to assume that their regulars are in. At this point, they're just playing the role of spoiler now. They're eliminated from playoff contention. Maybe they care enough to try to knock the Dodgers off of the division race against the Giants. So assuming Machado plays, assuming Tatis plays, I think that the run line there at +1.5 is especially intriguing. It's going to be hard to see them winning, but I do like the money line too. It's just a ton of odds. Like this Padres team came into the year as one of the better teams in baseball. They were close to the World Series favorites for quite a while, and I know they're going with a bullpen game tonight against Max Scherzer, so that's why they're such big underdogs. But I think their offense has gotten to a point now where it's extremely undervalued. Scherzer's a little overrated because he's just been so good lately, and I think Scherzer is one of the best pitchers in baseball, just not quite as good as he's been recently. So I think that Tatis, Machado, assuming they're playing, can keep this game close enough where I'm kind of interested in the run line there.
All right, finally take us home with your favorite game total, Matt.
So I do like this game for the over also. It kind of aligns with everything that I've said so far, but there is another one where I like the under, and that's the Coors Field game in the afternoon. So that total is at 12 right now, and I do think that there's a good chance. We don't know the lineups for these teams yet. I do think there's a good chance that we see some regulars take the day off. This is a day game after a night game, 2 teams not in contention anymore. So it could be Juan Soto, who seems to never sit, and I think maybe that's because he's in the midst of an MVP race. But maybe Trevor Story gets the day off. Maybe some other regulars don't play. And it's not as warm in Colorado as it was during the summer, and it's not as great of a hitting environment as it normally is. So even with a mediocre pitching matchup and probably a really bad pitching matchup, I still think that this game could go under the total.
All right, Garion, what's your favorite game total?
So I mentioned that I don't really like Hernandez for the Marlins going up against this Mets lineup. In general, I think you just have to take the over in this game between the Mets and the Marlins. It's 7.5. Now it's down to 7. All right. -125 to take the over. Did like it a little bit more when it was -105 at 7.5. But you've got Hernandez, who, as I mentioned, has given up putrid numbers to left-handed bats in his last 6 starts. And the Mets, so far in 2021, have taken the 7th most left-handed plate appearances against right-handed pitching. They just have a roster that's conducive to stuffing their lineup full of left-handed bats. Tonight you'll probably see 5. Whether or not Dominic Smith finds his way into the lineup, it could be a 6th, but probably you're going to get Nimmo, you're going to get Lindor, you're going to get Conforto, you're going to get VR, and you're going to get McNeil. So 5 of their 8 position players are going to be left-handed. And then on the other side, like, I don't really trust the Marlins offense all that much. I don't think they're going to score 8 runs tonight, but something about that swinging bunt in Pittsburgh, like, just broke Taijuan Walker's brain. I don't know what happened, but his last 12 starts, not only does he have an ERA above 7, his FIP is 7.26. There's been nothing redeeming about Taijuan Walker for the past 3 months, essentially. So maybe he doesn't get completely bombarded by this underwhelming Marlins lineup tonight, but I do think he's liable to give up 2 or 3 runs, and I think the Mets can get the rest done all by themselves.